Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Vobie One-Eyed Kenobi Showbie with me, Richard Vobes, here on the 9th of December 2021, and I hope you're all very well and keeping warm. I've got two jumpers on and a jacket, a shirt and a T-shirt because I haven't got the heater on in here in the studio. The reason is I'm trying to conserve fuel. Yeah, I'm trying to conserve fuel. I need to find another source of Calagas. And now I know a number of garages sell them, but I'm always wary about buying them from garages because everything you buy from a garage is generally a lot more expensive, mainly I suppose because it's convenient for people. So I'm looking to see if there is a cheap supplier. Now, I guess the cheapest way is to go and collect the stuff, but from my understanding is you've got to already have a bottle to exchange, or if you start a new bottle, you have to pay a deposit on the bottle, which in theory you get back when you finish. But who actually ever finishes their bottle? I mean, I know we finish their bottle, but do you ever then at some point in your life say, do you know what? I no longer want a Calagas fire, so I'm going to give you the bottle. Can I have my deposit back? I bet you most people don't. And in fact, I've got about 3 bottles which I have in my garage which are not being used at the moment. And when I did take one to be filled, they said, well, we can't take that because that wasn't one of the ones that we gave a deposit on. So you sort of get a bit robbed there. Sounds like a scam to me. Could be. We're looking at scams as well. Have you ever had mobile phone scams? Have you been told that a parcel is trying to be delivered? They've tried to deliver you with Hermes, but unfortunately you weren't in. Or is it the post office trying to deliver? But don't worry, you can phone this number, or better still, you can go online to this very dubious URL in which only for about a couple of quid you can pay to have it redelivered to you, as long as you give them your credit cards. And then guess what? Your bank account is emptied. Oh, yes, it's a scam. Have you ever had any of those? Be interested to know. And how much have you ever spent on an advent calendar? That's what I'd like to know. Bonnie has sent in a video of her advent calendar. Yes, well, it's apparently it was 225 quid. I just looked it up. That's a lot of money, I think, to spend on an advent calendar, whether she bought it or was given it or whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe the things inside the advent calendar are worth it. Have you ever bought an advent calendar that's got anything worth? My advent calendar, ladies and gentlemen, is free, and we're going to open it up in a moment. But first of all, let's say hello to a few people. We're not going to do a roll call, but we'll just say hello to Ron Langley, Mr. Mocky, Lynn B, Clive Waterfall, Andrew Norris, Dave Ivad, Kerry Baldwin, Lynn B, and many others who are joining us all the time. It's very nice to see you, including Trev's Travels by Narrowboat, who says, I get scam emails every day. Guess what? I delete them. And that's the best thing to do. Now, I had a occasion yesterday, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I had a restaurant in Muswell Hill, I think it was, who kept texting me to let me know that I was booked in for a meal. And it just kept saying, please confirm that you've got this. And I didn't confirm anything. I had about 4 or 5 of these. It started the day before yesterday saying, oh, just to confirm that you've booked in. And I thought, well, is it a scam or isn't it? If it isn't a scam, somebody's given the wrong number. If it is a scam, they may want to know whether my phone, this number, goes actually to somewhere in which I might get a follow-up or something. I don't know. So I did nothing. If you ever get anything suspicious, don't follow it up, because if they really want you, they'll come again. Mark Burgess says, my lint one costs £18. That's presumably is his advent calendar. Well, that's very nice. I'm very pleased to hear it. And Sean James Cameron says, never confirm or deny. Exactly. Just do what the Boris Johnson does and say, I'm reliably informed that I've never had a text from them or that a party happened at Downing Street. David Vad says, Emily and the Detectives. Yes, or Emil, probably. I remember reading that book many, many years ago at school, and I thought it did say Emily and the Detectives, and I read it all the way along with this young fella with the name Emily. It was only years later that I realised it was actually Emil, and the detectives. Audrey Forbes says, I had a lot of scams from supermarkets that I never use. That's interesting. What do they take? What form of scam do they take? Be fascinated to know. And Jim Mugford says, evening, just came in from cleaning 25 centimetres of snow here in Nova Scotia. Nice surprise, the Vobes Show is on, and now a hot cup of tea. Well, there we go. We're doing, just so you know, if you've just joined us and you're thinking, hang on a minute, it's Thursday, it's not normally on a Thursday. Well, we're doing them every day until Christmas, except at weekends. So that's every weekday, not every single day, if you see what I mean. It's nice to have a couple of days off, and I'm looking forward to the couple of days off when I get them at the end of this week, which will be the day after tomorrow. I know. Kerry Baldwin says, I haven't got an advent calendar. No, I've got this one that Mark Burgess made for me and will be featuring any second to find out if we've got another Jacques Tati page in front of us, but I'm reliably informed it isn't. Terry Baldwin says, sorry, Terry Baldwin. It's not Terry Baldwin at all. It's Trev's Travels by Narrowboat. It says, call back with a payphone if you can find one. Yes, some of these payphones, in fact, most of them now either have libraries in them, free libraries, presumably, and a defibrillator. I think, don't get confused that you can take the defibrillator home with you, read all the instructions, and then 3 weeks later take it back and swap it for another defibrillator. That's not how the little red boxes work these days. It's books that you take home and read and then send back. The defibrillators, you do that business about restarting the heart. If you've run into a telephone box and taken out, I don't know, a Dickens book and a Wuthering Heights book, and you've tried pressing those against somebody to see if that will start their heart, it may be a terrible, terrible drama that will be unfold, which could actually make a good novel later on. Michael White says good evening, which is nice of him. And Mr. Basil B says, hello, girls and gals. And now then, very busy man. Can't say that. He was an awful man. Sean O'Brien says, is it sexy time? No, not yet anyway. Sean James Cameron, however, is in London. He says in London, most telephone boxes are toilets. Yes, I think that may well be the case. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to have a look and see inside our special advent calendar here at the Vobes Show, made by Mark Burgess, unknown to him for the show. He thought it was just for me, but no, we take this show very seriously. So let's have a look and see what number and what slide or picture is behind it today. Mr. Mocky says that Dickens cider is okay. Yes, my old wife, she used to like Dickens cider, but she didn't like the joke. Anyway, let's have a look at number whatever it is on today's advent calendar. And here it is, look at that. It's December the 9th, and we've got a different theme. Charlie Chaplin, somebody who I don't admire very much at all. It says Charlie Chaplin's genius was in comedy. I never found any of his stuff funny, but then I was 100 years out of date. He has no sense of humour, particularly about himself. And that is given to, I don't know who that is, Litta Gray. Is that the picture of the woman in there? He has no sense of humour. Yes. I'd never found him funny. Did you find Charlie Chaplin funny? Was there anything funny about him? I mean, even the fact that he was a little man with his wiggly there was something, in my mind, quite sinister about him. But let's face it, when he walked onto the stage of the silent era, nobody had ever seen anything like that before, I don't suppose. So maybe he was very, very lucky because he came up with something unusual and unique. Talking of which, I was chatting to the lovely Julia, by the way, the other day, and she showed me this woman I can't even remember her name. It's somebody Fart. I remember that. She showed me some of this. This woman is on YouTube. You can check her out if you so wish, but I wouldn't bother. She has something like 128,000 followers. She's an American. She's a rather plump lady, and she wears a lot of eye makeup and clearly is an actress, and this is a characterization of somebody, which a lot of people have fallen for. I think that's possibly the way to go. I am actually thinking of doing a Farmer Piles YouTube channel in which we follow the antics of Farmer Piles and not actually reveal that I'm not true. Only it would have been handy to have had tractors and various things. So maybe my character should be Farmer Piles, who wishes he was a farmer, dressed like a farmer, walks about like a farmer, but in actual fact isn't a farmer. Anyway, this character, apparently, this woman, she has mental breakdowns and various things, and it's incredibly random and unusual, and she has millions of views. And I said to Julia, I said, you know, this is the way forward, isn't it? That really and truly, you need to be a freak. I mean, I'm a bit of a freak, but I'm not as freaky as some of these people who you see on YouTube who let themselves have such a strange, peculiar personality, which may be all fake, but it is getting the numbers, and presumably she's making a lot of money from it. And why wouldn't you? I think that's probably the only way it's got to be. Sean James Cameron says the only farm he's got is a toy farm. I think that there is a strand there in Farmer Piles, a whole new YouTube. Let's think about that for the new year. Hello there, I'm Farmer Piles, and this is my farm. And I think he could, if I would need a cameraman really to help me. I don't think I can do that holding the camera like that. I would need to have a cameraman and go walking through the town with my cardboard sheep and my plywood sheepdog and all of that. I think that would be a hoot, and I think people would tune in, and I think within weeks it would have more viewers than the Vobes Show and the Bald Explorer put together. Ray of Hope says Farmer Piles sounds like a pain in the backside. Well, it wouldn't be for everybody, of course. David Vad says, does Farmer Piles have Preparation H? I think that would be probably the name of one of his dogs or sheep or something. Hey, come on, H, come on over here. Hello, little Preparation, how you doing? I definitely think that could be a goer. And Mark Burgess says, could Lee Dallens help out with that? Yes, he probably could. We could give us the farm to wander around and do a series of him going across the farm, checking the earth soil and making sure there's enough set aside. I've set aside the whole farm. The whole farm I've set aside for the next 10 years. I've set it right over there, and now I can't find the bloody thing. I know I set it aside somewhere. I don't know if I... Where is that farm? Come on now. Where's the farm? You seem... Excuse me. I know you're a little old lady who seems a bit old and frail and blind, dying of COVID and what have you, but have you seen my farm? Have you seen it? I don't know where it is. I've looked all around the West Country, definitely not there. Everyone says it's their farm. It's not my farm, says. It's not your farm. Get off my land, they say. That's my line. Get off my... Anyway, could go on like that for hours. Probably get a lot of abuse and all of that, so I would just ignore the comments and just go, I suppose, that's a nice comment, thanks for that. Perishing people. Could be quite good. Green wellies on the sheep. I think that's an excellent idea. Trev's travels by narrowboat. Right, my lover, bring on Farmer Piles, says Tim T. Yes, so there we are. Watch this space. In the new year, we could well be seeing the return of Farmer Piles. That would be hilarious. Anyway, thank you very much for that. So, have you... one of the questions I've got written down on this piece of paper, which is complete bunkum in front of me, is how much did you spend on an advent calendar if you spent on one? Now, I never buy advent calendars. I think they're an absolute waste of money. The chocolate is second rate, and you pay a lot of money just to open up some doors. I mean, you'd be better off buying all the chocolates or trinkets yourself and make sure you get the ones you want. But, of course, I am a bit of an old misery guts, so that's why I haven't done it. But Bonnie, on the other hand, has either she or somebody has lashed out £225 for a advent calendar, which is worth, so they say on their website, and I looked it up, £623. Interested? Let's see. Now, in my opinion, this is a grotesque advertising, but, oh, hang on, we've got a phone call. We'll have to wait on the calendar there, because the telephone calls we have to do in case it's the police ready to do a raid. Hello, welcome to the show. Thanks. That was another telephone scam, care of BT, or Betty, as she is often known. All right, Betty?
Yes, that's right, thank you.
Nice to see you. Right, let us go to the video and find out what advent calendar, expensive advent calendar, Bonnie has purchased.
It's day 7 of the Liberty Advent Calendar. Yesterday I opened number 6 box, and now I'm opening number 7 box, which is, where's number 7? And what's going to be in here? What's that? Look at this. It is, I don't know what it is, QMS Day and Night Eye Cream. So it's good for my eyes, getting rid of the wrinkles. How lovely. So that is number 7. And there's all about it on the back there. All just get rid of dark circles and smooth wrinkles. Definitely need that. So that's day 7. And tomorrow I will be opening day 8, which is, where's day 8? Can't see it. There it is. No, that's number 3. Where's day 8? Can't find day 8. Oh, there it is. There it is. I wonder what's in there. No peeking. Let's close it up until tomorrow. Here we are. Until tomorrow. The Liberty Advent Calendar. How lovely.
Yours for only 225 quid. Blimey. There you go. Thanks, Bonnie, for sending that in. That's very lavish and very expensive. The question I'm really curious about is, does anybody believe all this nonsense about these creams that make you look younger or get rid of your wrinkles and all of that? To me, it seems like quackery. It's a whole load of chemicals and this, that and the other, and lotions and potions to make you younger. But do they actually work? I haven't seen anybody who is of a certain age who shoves this stuff on them and actually looks any younger. I used to know a lady who wore all this sort of stuff, and she would ladle it all on and work it all out, and I couldn't see any damn difference. Mind you, I've only got one eye, so maybe if I had both eyes I would see that she was twice the age. Half the age. But what do you think? Does it make any difference? Are you somebody who ladles this on? I'm talking mainly, of course, to the men who probably wear a lot of these anti-aging creams and things. The women, of course, don't need it because they always look young and beautiful. Charm, is the best way to a lady's whatever. Whereas food, of course, is always good for Farmer Piles. Hello there. I'm always wearing this anti-aging stuff because I don't believe in it, see? Mr. Mocky says, well, in 233, and it seems to work for me. Oh, well, fair enough. Sean James Cameron says, doctor told me, eat less and put your body under less stress, like cold showers, and you reverse aging. No creams needed. Yes, I mean, so much of this, like the pharmaceutical industry, I think is just bunkum, and people are wasting their money on vanity, thinking that these things work, when of course I don't think they really do. Lord Geoffrey Harrison says, yes, it is you. Yes, it is you met me, and I'm 95, and yes, you didn't look a day over 97. And Bonnie says it was a birthday gift from hubby at the end of October. My goodness, think what you could buy for 225 quid. But the thing is, Bonnie, has it worked? If you've been shoving this stuff onto your visage all this time, has it made you look younger? Has it done all the things that it says on the tin? Or is it trade's description? And could you go back and say, these anti-aging things, I've been shoving them on for 5 years. I don't look any different. They'll probably turn around and say, well, when did you start? 5 years ago. Yes, but you have got 5 years older. Oh, yes, I suppose that's true. It's interesting, though, isn't it? Seabird says you need some festive KFC. It's KFC chicken covered in gravy. It's very festive. No, thank you. I also noticed that McDonald's are doing McBaubles. This is a McDonald's burger that is in the shape of a bauble that you can hang on your tree. No, it's a real thing. I saw it earlier when I was preparing for the show, and I thought, I'm not going to mention their name. They don't need the advertising. But there it is. Somebody's already mentioned the rival chicken company, and I'm not going to do that. David Ved says, I don't use any of that B... KS, and I don't believe I don't believe it. I think you are using it all the time, David Vad. That's what inspires you. Julia Hartley says it's a beautiful box. Interesting that people are commenting on the beauty of the box. The packaging, the packaging, £225 for some lovely cardboard printed with flowers on it. Well, there you go. Jackie Lowe says never been to a spa or a beauty place. Would feel I was being taken for a fool. Instead, I use a bit of Nivea, like Williams Catherine, whoever that is, and everyone says I look younger than my age. It's just the jeans. Yes, and I'm trying to get rid of my jeans and wear proper trousers. But there we are. We have another phone call. Let's find out who that is, challenging me on the show, which is just as well. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Now, about this car accident you had.
Yes, I'm afraid what's happened is my knees got knocked against the knobbly gear stick, and unfortunately I can only limp now.
With which leg?
With the third leg.
That's quite impressive.
Thank you very much. I'm glad it is. Who's calling the Vobe this evening from the car insurance company?
It's Mr. Mocky.
Mr. Mocky, nice to have you on the show.
Yes, well, I don't often get the opportunity to make the phone call because of background noise.
Oh, what do you have in the background that's not normally so noisy?
Children.
Oh, yes. Put them to bed with a good spanking. That's the best way.
Yes, well, duct tape works as well.
Duct tape, even better. Instant, that is.
Just a job. I just couldn't resist the car accident call.
Oh, brilliant! Yes. Well, of course, they get loads of those scams, and of course, when they ring up, I always try to reach for my recorder so I can make a bit of money out of them by sticking them on YouTube.
Well, I do enjoy winding them up for as long as I possibly can before they get really frustrated and put the phone down.
Yeah, and all the time they're wasting their time. They're not ringing somebody else and diddling them out of money, which is the main thing, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. And in the old days, I don't think it's true now, but in the old days, the more incoming calls you got to your mobile, the better deal you could get when it was time to renew. I don't think that works like that anymore, of course.
No, well, who rings anybody on a mobile? They either do it by text or they just send emojis to each other, don't they?
Well, I'm ringing you on one.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Well, it's nice that this show is breaking the rules and going against the grain. It wouldn't be a very good show. Thank you. Yes, it wouldn't be a very good show if everyone just showed me emojis. I would never understand any of it.
No, and unfortunately, I can't type fast enough to keep up with what's going on in the chat room.
No, I know. It's lovely to see everybody eagerly tapping away.
Yes, lots of tippy tapping, but it's just not quite fast enough. By the time I've typed my reply, it's the wrong end of the page.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, and of course there's a bit of a delay between what waffle I come out with and people's reactions to it, and then by the time they've typed it, of course I'm on to some other boring subject.
Well, yes, but at least your mouth is in keeping with the noise that's coming out of it.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. That's very good. Now, whilst you're on the phone then, can I ask you, here's a question that I've been dying to know. We've all got to go into this Plan B, or BS as a number of people are calling it, because we've got this Omicron, whatever it's... What are the symptoms of Omicron? Because they're supposedly different from the main coronavirus that we've been scared of. Do you know what these are?
I don't know. I know that I watched something today, and the chap was proclaiming to be a scientist, and he was saying that it's actually too soon to know if it's as bad as the Delta thingy, But it looks very much like it's not going to be as the symptoms not going to be so severe. So it's probably a good thing.
Yes, well, I see that, and so on the basis that we don't know really, and I think only one or none people have died from it, and it's very transmittable, but it's not very good. It's very wise then that we all have to be locked up and can't go anywhere. In fact, don't go to the office, go to the parties. Seems to be the message.
But those are not instructions. They were just suggestions, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's right. It was advisory. So,
yes.
But you can go to work and you can get on with the rest of your life. But I still don't know what.
It's a bit tricky working from home when you're a truck driver, anyway. To be honest.
Well, you can only drive so many times around the front room, I suppose, or if you can get the truck in it.
Exactly. I think that personally, it's not going to wash if they do make it a lockdown. People are just not going to go for it this time.
Do you think people are fed up now?
I think people were fed up after the first one.
Yeah.
But they stuck with it, but now they're seeing that actually it's not making any difference.
Exactly. I mean, anybody in Wales and Scotland who've had these mandates shoved on them, they must be thinking, well, we've not really seen any benefit from having to do all these things against what's going on in England. What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. What is the point? But, I don't think even Doris dared actually make another lockdown now.
Well, let's hope not. I mean, he may reverse the decision because apparently I heard that there is all the backbenchers are totally against it. Then they made vote against it, although it actually becomes law on Monday, and yet they vote, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday to make it law. But it's already law by the time they vote. So,
but they can't uphold it anyway because all the fines and all the hoo-ha from the first lockdown were all thrown out. Nobody's been prosecuted.
Well, there we go. We won't get prosecuted. I mean, if Boris isn't going to get prosecuted for having a party or his mates having a party, apart from just one woman thrown under the bus, say, oh, look, you resign and tear up on your doorstep and it'll be fine. I'll make sure that the baby is induced so that we get the good news story on the papers first thing this morning. Come on, Carrie.
Convenient.
Quickly, have a baby.
Very convenient.
Wasn't that convenient? I mean, for goodness sake, it's like, oh golly, PMQs is coming. What are we going to do? We've got a press conference that we've got to have. What are we going to do? Carrie, stick that cushion up. Somebody grab a baby from somewhere and we'll have it. Oh, we've had a baby. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew indeed. What can you say?
And now he's going to take a few days off because he's a new father. When there's a crisis, plan everybody else, don't go to work. If you stay at home, I've got to stay at home with my baby. It's like, for goodness sake, you couldn't make this up.
Yeah, well, if it was a book, you wouldn't believe it, would you?
You wouldn't. I mean, imagine sitting there a couple of years ago reading of Frederick Forsyth or somebody like that, talking about a politic drama, and they were saying, and they locked down. You go, this is a load of old bunkum. That would never happen. Unless they happen to put and the Prime Minister was Boris Johnson. Well, it did. First of all, you'd be going, well, that would never happen. But here we go.
Sadly, it did.
I know, and I voted for him.
I'm not a political person. I don't follow politics. This pandemic thing has forced me to take more notice of it than I normally would.
Yes.
But, what other option did we have? Because that Corbyn bloke, no, and that woman that can't count, we wouldn't have wanted them in charge, would we?
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine Corbyn and, I can't even remember her name. Yeah, the one. Diane Abbott. Corbyn and Abbott. I mean, my goodness. We would have been in a dreadful situation if they'd been in. And then have the pandemic and them try and sort it out. Goodness sake,
exactly.
It would be an absolute nightmare. But anyway, hopefully, I mean, I think poor old Boris, I didn't mean to say that, poor old Boris, I think his days are numbered now. I think he's got to go.
Yeah, his P45 is
being
looming,
printed.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but who would you put in his place?
Well,
that is the he's got himself in a very clever position because I wouldn't trust a lot of them. Exactly.
The trouble is we won't get that choice anyway because they'll just pop the next man in they feel like.
Yes.
And we won't get to vote it.
No.
But if voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's why they want to give us a mandatory vaccine so that we're all sort of doped up. We don't know what's going on. Probably.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
Mr. Mocky.
I'm not going on that one.
No, fair enough. Look after yourself and take yourself easy.
Yes, and you.
No,
Thank you
lovely
very
to
much.
talk to you, by the way. Do ring in again.
I will try.
Good man. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we are. That was lovely, Mr. Mocky, taking a mockery of me by finding out if I'd had an accident recently. Have you had any of those phone calls? Had an accident? I've had an accident. Do you remember that? Who was that? Joe Pasquale, wasn't he? He used to do those adverts on the telly. I think it's about the time I stopped watching the telly when it was, I've had an accident. Good old Joe Pasquale. Is he still working? Is anybody working at the moment? Oh, no, we're not allowed to work anymore from Monday. We've got to all be sit at home. But don't worry, I'll be at home, still working. So there we go. So do you think the baby was induced? That's a question, isn't it? Was the baby induced to, or was that just convenient, or was that... What do you think? Give us a call, 0793 4746 790. You can't really induce a baby whenever you like, can you? Is that possible? Dave Avad says Russ Abbott and Combine Harvester. They would make a better pair in get the words out, Mr. Vobes. Yes, thanks. You know what I'm trying to say. Carry on politics, says Sean James Cameron. Yes. Oh no, it's not knocking it out. No. Oh, I don't know what we're gonna do. I think everyone should wear masks. It'd be nice, lovely. You could get all sorts of lovely masks out there. Mr. Bazza says, didn't do what Boris said anyway. Good for you. Trevs Travels by Narrowboat says, nor have I. And Christo Fufas says, I don't believe the hype. No, I don't believe the hype. And Bonnie says, so now just walk, cycle, bus, train or taxi all costs less, actually, than a car. Apropos of, I don't know what that is. I know sometimes you chat and I come in and I misread where you are. That's mainly because I'm thick. But I do try to catch up with it. It's very difficult when you're doing all this talking and what have you. Ron Langley, good old Ron Langley is out there and he says they're all the same, whoever gets in. It is interesting, isn't it? I do think there is something in that. They're all the same when they get in. I do think that people join the politics, a lot of them, because they do want to make a difference. That they do want to make, mainly to their pocket, of course. But they do come in with altruistic ideas and all of that. I think that's what motivates them to sort of start the process. But to get up into the cabinet office or to become an MP is not something you can just do overnight, which would probably be better if it was. Because if you said, you know what, I would actually like to be an MP and do something about saving this, that and the other, or creating more this, that and the other, then you'd have that motivation. If you could get in and be an MP immediately, you could perhaps do that. But I think because you have this long journey of slowly having what your altruism was going to be, it chipped away from you. As you slowly get to the power position, you've actually turned from those original good intentions into that lying, conniving, filling your own pocket situation that we love about politicians. Or maybe not. Tim T says, let's vote Richard in. You see, it's not as easy as that, is it? But what do you think about Richard Tice from the, what is it called? Not the beleaguered party, the Start Again party, the Reform. Is it the Reform Party? I think he talks a good talk, actually. I've heard him on Talk Radio and I've heard him interviewed in various other places. Richard Tice seems to have good intentions and this, that and the other, but... The trouble is, once they get in and they get somewhere, I don't know. But I do have a lot of time for old, what's his name, Farage. Can't remember his first name. You know the bloke I mean. I think since he left the party that he started, he's done some good stuff in GB News. I think Nigel, there we are. Nigel. Such a nice, lovely name, isn't it? If there's anybody Nigels out there. I do think he's got... I never was overly keen on him to begin with. Then I sort of understood him and got him a bit. And And now I think he's actually doing good things. Whether I would want him as an MP or anything, I don't know, because he probably would change. Bonnie says, anyone miss John Major and his blue Y-fronts? No, definitely not. When John Major was in, and when he was Prime Minister, and I didn't really understand what politics was because I was a younger man, I thought that actually he was going to be a good Prime Minister because he didn't have all the nonsense that a lot of them have. It was just this very plain, ordinary sort of man who liked cricket. Not that I'm a great fan of cricket myself, but he seemed to have something, and I thought that he was, but I didn't understand politics. And then he disappeared, of course, and as I sort of left, I was doing my own thing, life, the universe and everything, bringing up children, blah, blah, blah. And then he reappeared during, and of course he was a great advocate for the European Union, which I didn't really understand or know about at the time. I just knew it was a thing that we were in. But when he reappeared during the Brexit debacle, and we were all of this trying to interfere and tell everybody that we shouldn't do it, I realised that actually he was quite a horrible person as well. Sorry, Mr. Major, it's just my own personal opinion. But you may be a very nice gentleman in every other way, but some of your views I just did very much disagree with. Sensible Paul says, when you become MP, just don't rock the boat. What would be the point, though, of just being an MP if you don't rock the boat? I mean, the boat is listing completely on the wrong way and sort of like the Titanic at the moment, sinking fast. It's as if you've got to do something, haven't you, to save this? Robert Maudsley says that gravy train come to mind. Yes, although quite why you want to get on a train full of gravy, I've never understood. It's like that phrase, having your cake and eat it. I mean, it's all very well having the cake, but if you don't get to eat it, what's the point of having the cake in the first place? Some of these phrases are a little ridiculous. Well said, Ray of Hope, says Mr. Basil B, but I can't quite see what Ray of Hope. Oh, here we go. He says, actually, thinking it through, keep Boris. That will guarantee that Tories lose the next election. Then we can sort out the Brexit disaster. Ah, Ray of Hope. This, I know you're a lovely man, and it was very nice, and we have a lot of things in common that we discuss, except on the Brexit front. I am pro-Brexit, and plainly, you're wrong. And, you know, but that's my view. And I know you, on the other hand, will say, Richard, plainly, I'm wrong. But we can disagree. That's the great thing about a show like this, is I appreciate that people will disagree with me, and they're fine to. Good. I love it that you disagree with me. As long as we don't get into a slanging match and just call each other names, it's great to disagree. There are some things I'm sure that Ray could convince me would be a good idea that we've had in things like the common market and the in the euro. But there are many other things that I am sure that he must also concede that there are some good things about not being part of it, but we may stick to our guns on certain points. I think that's the only sensible way of being about it. Jackie Lowe says, absolutely agree with this, Mr. Vobes. Thank you very much. I'm not quite sure what it is I've said that you agree with, but I'm very thrilled that you do. Bonnie there says, Chippy the donkey fell in love and was calling to his girlfriend at 4 a.m. every morning. There we are. Thank you, Bonnie, for that random comment that came in. It's at this point I'd love to say we now go to a video, but we don't have a video to come in. We have nothing. So maybe a phone call, 0793 4746 790. Give us a call. Tell us what you think about the situation. What do you think about the slightly worrying piece that Boris said during the recent debacle where he stood up in front of people, which is commonly known as a press call, I think it is, or whatever it was, about we ought to have a conversation, a public conversation about mandating vaccines. If I remember rightly, he said he didn't think that there was any other way in order to get everybody to have a vaccine and how important that was. But is it that important? If Omicron is what we are beginning to think could be a much more benign thing, that although it spreads very rapidly, which is in some ways what you want, if everybody gets this little bit of Omicron, but it's not actually actually hospitalising anybody. People aren't actually dying from it. And thereafter, every what do they call it? Variations of this are going to be more benign, because that's how the virus works. It doesn't generally, they don't get harsher to kill the host. They want to get to a point where they can live with the host as much as they can, because they want to live. If they kill the host, they die. So it's, it's a bit Darwinism, really, isn't it? Then this is going to be a good thing, surely. Anyway, we've got a phone call. Thank you for saving me for waffling about nothing. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show.
Sean from London with a mince pie and a cup of tea.
Sean, are you a convert to mince pies?
I've eaten all the mince pies, and I've nearly eaten all the Christmas cake.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And this is a man, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't see the video yesterday, a man who had never had mince pies or Christmas cake, because you felt that, that mince pies had minced meat in it.
Well, that's what it says on the tin.
Well, we established that there's a difference, did we not, in the show now, between mince and minced. When you mince meat, you have minced it.
When I go into London, I see quite a few people having a mince.
Yes, I'm sure most of them in London mince about quite a bit.
I'm actually quite shocked and surprised that he has mentioned the mandatory vaccines. I didn't think we'd ever come to that, but then.
Well, we haven't yet come to it, and I don't think we will.
But for the fact that it's even being discussed, I'm surprised by.
What do you not think he was just at that point? I mean, this dishevelled man who had caused, was so weak at Prime Minister's question times, and then had to defend the indefensible because the evidence was right there in front of him about these parties, that he was really a drowning man clutching at straws and doing anything to divert the fact that he has been lying.
Could have been, but to be honest, I've got no issue whether they had a party or not. I think it's just one of these stories that's been whipped up by the media, and can anybody in this country say they completely stuck to the rules? I get that they are the people that make the rules, but you could say that when they were doing the press conference, sometimes you act a bit differently. It's like, I know undertakers that have a joke about death because they have to get through it.
In that case, if they were just having a laugh, why did whatever her name is, Strachan, resign? If there was
obviously there's something else in it.
If there was no party, as there all say, well, there was no party. Okay, then there's this evidence to say, this fictional party didn't happen. But if it did happen, it was with wine and cheese and not socially distanced. Ha 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 ha. Then why is that woman the one that suddenly resigns if there's no party? What's she resigning for?
Well, to try and squash
to save
the story.
So you would chuck your career away just to save a story, or to save the Prime Minister, save Boris Johnson?
Well, no, the standard procedure is that you resign, and then in 6 months she'll be back.
I don't know.
That is the standard procedure. But whether there was a party or not, I think everybody is up in hysterics about it, and I've got no issue with it. The issue that I would have is whether he has said an untruth in a parliament. That's the issue that I would have.
Well, I agree with you to an extent that if they'd had a party, whether they had a party or not, if they had just simply owned up and said, look, we did have a party. It was basically everyone was at work. It came to the end of the week. Someone was leaving. So we just said, look, well done. You've worked very hard. We've opened a bottle and sort of.
Yes,
it's not
and
like...
if he didn't go and if he didn't go to the party, then he can say that he wasn't aware of it.
Yes, well, he's been
just sack everybody that was at the party. But I just think sometimes some of these stories, you can get caught up in the whirlwind of it all. And I just think if you ask the average person on the street, they wouldn't give a fig pie about it.
I suppose not, except that, I mean, it is a little bit more. I mean, I wasn't very worried about the wallpaper. You know, interesting that it was X many thousands of pounds, this wallpaper and blah, blah, blah. But really, was that going to affect my life? I think when it comes to the fact that people were told not to visit people, wear masks, do all this, have social distancing, and they couldn't go into their hospital and see their loved ones, or they couldn't visit their parents in their care homes, and those people who they were alone at Christmas, like the Queen was not able to spend Christmas with her family, those loved ones that they couldn't spend Christmas with may now have died, because that may have been the last Christmas. I mean, a year has passed and they did the right thing and they sacrificed things because that's what they were told to do. And then whether there was a party or not, the fact that they were laughing about the fact that they had or hadn't had a party, I think is just abhorrent, because it's like spitting in the eye of the three-legged man on the ground who's, you know, on fire. It's like, well, I'm not really helping you to put out the fire. I'm just spitting at you because I don't like you. And it's that one rule for them. And what I think they are thinking, we are above all this. We're saving the country. We're saving the world. We can have a party because we're doing such good things.
I can't understand why they just didn't come out and say everybody that was at this alleged party was in a bubble.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they all worked together.
Well, I'm sure they could have come up with a far, far better reason. But Boris Johnson looked like the weakest man in PMQs and turned on Keir Starmer when he was asking these questions. And I'm not a great Keir Starmer person myself, but I thought finally Keir Starmer's actually got something. And he was turning on them and saying, oh, the party opposite just plays politics. Well, of course they play politics. That's their business to do. And they're trying to hold the Prime Minister and the government to account. That is part of their role. And we need them to be up and stiff. But Boris didn't like it. So I think his days are. I don't think he'll be Prime Minister this time next year. But I don't know who we're having it.
Yes, I agree with you on that I can't see him being there for this time next year. But the question is, who on earth would you put in charge? Because I wouldn't want the Deputy Prime Minister to be in charge. The rumours are. The rumours around the newsrooms is that he would either go to the Chancellor, or I can't remember the name of the other person now.
Well, we haven't heard anything from Richie Sunak for a while, and that may well be because there's going to be a coup, and he wants to come in, and he's trying to disassociate himself as much as possible. Although, of course, he may well have been at the parties.
Also, as well, you've got to ask who got access to it. And if you wanted to move into a position, you would create that position by maybe getting somebody to leak some footage that could make the opening in order for you to make a move in.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying the awkwardness of the situation, apart from the fact that we've gone into Plan B, although it doesn't actually affect me so much. But I think it's just, more frightening of people. It's completely unnecessary. And the whole business about, well, if you're good, you can have Christmas. If you get your boosters, you can have, I mean, all of this.
This thing, though, it just really annoys me when they say Christmas is cancelled. Christmas is not cancelled. Christmas is whatever you want to make it.
Yes, and there's no way you can... I mean, it's in the calendar. It's been a tradition for, since God was a boy, or at least his boy was a boy. There's some interesting comments here. Mr. Mocky says the video took almost a year to come out because the blackmail negotiations took so long and then failed. It's a question mark.
Well, what I found that was interesting was that so many people in the video were blurred except for two people.
Yeah, and who were those people?
I thought the two people that are the troublemakers, and they want to get them out. Why is everybody else being protected?
Well, I suppose somebody somewhere, whoever leaked it, has had that for a long time and has been waiting for the right moment, I guess. Smoth says the party isn't the issue, it's the fact that it exposes the lie of lockdown that is the issue. Your caller is completely missing the point because he is a sheep. That's not a very nice thing to say. But I get the point that you're making is, of course, that is the other thing that's quite true. If the scientists and the politicians are to be believed and that they believe what they are saying, then they ought to be as scared as they've made everybody else. But clearly they're not as scared because they're busy socialising, having this, assuming this party is a thing. And we've seen many, many clips where people have come together, and they put the masks on for the photos, and then they go off to the banquet where they take the masks off and they all interact. And yet they're telling us, you guys must socially distance, you must wear your mask, you've got to stay at home, it's dreadful, it's evil, and you're all likely to die, and don't kill your granny. Do you remember that? Don't kill the granny. Open the doors and windows on Christmas Day so that your Christmas pudding is as frozen as a stick of rock. And yet they're having that. So do they believe the science? Clearly they don't. And yet Boris had it.
I would be interested for somebody else to phone in who hasn't got an axe to grind, that they didn't vote for him, and that they completely stuck to the lockdown rules 100%. Because everybody that I know stuck to them for 99.8% of the time.
Well, we can all be hypocrites, but by saying, it's wrong that they did it, and we didn't,
but the thing
or whatever.
Is, the police on the gate would have a list of people that were in the building at the time, so it would be very easy to find out who was there.
Well, I don't understand why they're having this inquiry, because it surely could just go up to who, there would be people in the room, or responsible for the rooms at Downing Street, and say, well, what happened here? We should know this within a matter of an hour or two, because these people could have just been texted. Was there a party on the Sunset? Let me look at the diary. Oh, yes, there was. Okay, thanks. That's it. Done. But
there will have to be a party this weekend, because they've just had a baby, so they've got to have a party for that.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
That was a joke, just in case people don't
Brilliant. Thank you, Sean.
All the best. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye. I have to say, I've not overly been interested in politics, but since Brexit came along, I became fascinated because it did polarise the nation, and I was interested how that affected people, and it was like the English Civil War, brother against brother on something, and you found that you could not... While you didn't agree, you could no longer be friends with somebody, which I found very odd. And I found this whole business fascinating.
Not while you didn't.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, can you turn the background noise set down?
Sorry, it's Ray of Horsham. I've just turned the telephone.
Hello, Ray. It's lovely to...
Hi.
Ray,
Hi.
You're wrong.
No,
but
no,
we
I'm
are...
right.
Yeah.
I'm right.
You're right.
I'm right.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
That's right. But we can laugh and we can be friends.
Absolutely. But I'll just give you my view on Brexit.
Please do.
First of all, there are no benefits. I can't see any benefits at all. Certainly no financial ones. There's lots of hot air spat around, but all we're doing is becoming a bit of a pariah internationally. There's no benefits whatsoever. What we should have done is stayed with it and fought our corner. The problem is our governments have not fought our corner in Europe at all over the last 40 years. And we've always had this wimpish approach. Oh, we don't like it, let's leave it. You don't actually resolve things by walking away. You stay there and you fix it. If it's good for the Germans, it should be good for us. If it's good for the French, it should be good for us. We are just a load of wimps. And people like Farage is a disaster. Farage is a nasty person. End of.
So you say that we should fight it from within, and for 40 years we've not been able to do that. Does that not just answer the question?
Of course we have. Of course we've been able to do it. I mean, the whole single market was actually Margaret Thatcher's idea. The French didn't like that at all.
Right.
But we put it through because it made sense.
Right, running away doesn't solve anything. All we are is an isolated country now. Look at this. Only the last couple of days, the EU, the tariffs on steel exports from the EU to the US have been cancelled. There's no tariffs now, but we've still got tariffs. So where's this great free trade we're going to get by Brexit? That doesn't exist. And by the way, our steel exports are twice what our fishing exports are. And we've got all this fuss going on about a few trawlers in the channel. Oh, it's an absolute waste of time.
Do you
Absolute waste of time. I mean, Boris, you can see by the people that have led the Brexit campaign. Look, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, Farage. Would you like those people on your own? Would you trust those people? Come on, give me a break.
Well,
if you want a political discussion, we'll have one. But the guys that have guided and championed Brexit are proving to be a complete and utter dustbin, if you ask me. That's where they should be.
I can see.
And Boris is an absolute. We had this discussion about Boris a week ago on the Peppa Pig thing, if you remember.
Oh yes.
He's just added to it. It's embarrassing. I am a Conservative Party member, and we are telling our MPs all over Sussex now, you've got to get rid of this guy. If you don't, we're going to lose the next election.
So
absolutely.
Do you not just? I don't want to get too deep on any of this Brexit stuff, but just to say, do you not think that we have yet to give it time?
How long do you want?
Well, we were
I haven't got that much time, Richard.
Well,
it's been 5-6 years now. The pound is 20% less valuable than it was in 2016 relative to the euro anyway. Even if it's got better in the recent past. How long do you want? We are ruining our children's and our grandchildren's future for the sake of some stupid desires of nationalistic people in the past. People have got an attitude, well, we hate the Germans because the war. That is still there. Most of the Brexit voters are in the age group of over 65. The only good thing is probably by the next referendum, most of those won't be here to vote.
Yes, that is an old argument that was put over by the Leave Party. By the Remain Party. I beg your pardon.
I don't find Remain as an insult. Some people use Remain as I think Remainers are the sensible one. It's the Leavers that are the losers.
Yes, no,
Leavers are losers.
I'm not using it as a. It is a fact that there was a Remain Party and a Stay Party, or whatever it was. So I'm not. No, I'm not insulting anybody. It's an interesting. Just the time factor is. I think that we've got to remember that we've had an inept prime minister and we've had a major crisis with this pandemic, which I know should not have made the effects or the.
Well, you could say we've had inept politicians for the last 25 or 30 years, really.
Well,
because they're the ones that should have made the most of it in the first place.
Well, I agree. I agree that we never seem to get a government that actually does anything that they promise. We always promise that it's going to be vote for us, it's going to be better. And then every time they come round, it's the same thing. Vote for us, and we'll educate your children, we'll save the NHS, we'll build more railways, we'll build more houses. We seem to have been doing that since the year dot, and nothing seems to get happened.
And what we end up doing is blaming Europe for our ills. But by the way, our ills are not Europe's fault. Our ills are our fault. And the ills aren't going away because we've left Europe. They're actually getting worse because we've thrown away 48% of our trade in the first place. We put that at risk, and we've got nothing to replace it.
Well, I don't know too much about parts of the subject that you're talking about, so I can't really comment. You know who I am. I'm not.
I'm not having a go. I'm not having a go.
No, I know. And the great thing is that we can debate this, and I'll admit absolutely. When I don't know anything. So there's elements in this, but there's certain elements that I personally feel passionate about and leaving for, and that's why I voted. And to me, it's not all about money, but it's going to be clearly about money to other people, and I completely understand why.
Right. Some flappy goose has said, cut this media addict off. I'm not a media addict. I'm a normal human being.
No, don't worry about what people say in the comments, because people say things in the heat of the moment, and I'm very pleased to have the time to have a conversation with you, and we can, because what people aren't, we're not ranting at each other. We're explaining our views.
Absolutely not.
Yes,
absolutely not.
And this is good. I mean, this is good. It's good that we can have a conversation where we disagree. I'm also learning from you, because I don't know enough about the subject. I know the reasons that I believe in Brexit, but I'm fascinated by the reasons that you don't.
All you have to sit down and look at it in great depth, look forward and say, what are the benefits? What have I seen so far? List them out, and then think, is that the right decision?
The trouble is, we are where we are, aren't we? I mean, we can't suddenly turn.
Well, we are where we are, but that doesn't mean we have to suffer it forever. I mean, we could change it back.
Yes, I agree. We can change it back,
with the right,
but not immediately. We've got to give it a fair crack at the whip, I think.
How long do you want?
Well, we've been in it for 40 years, so let's have good 10 to 20 years outside it.
Okay, all right.
It might not be what you want, but that's just my thoughts.
Well, it actually doesn't make that much difference to me personally, or my good family. But I think it does affect my grandchildren. And I think we've made the wrong decision.
Well, my son would agree with you. I think, and of course, he's just as likely to say, "But I'm the next generation, so
Can I just say, I'm just watching, I know I shouldn't say it, but this thing about Brexit voters Remainers, but you've got to realise that the problem with referendums is that Brexit vote by 4% compared to Remain, if you like. That is a smaller margin than many governments get voted for. The problem is, Mr. Steve Barker, and people like you've got to realise is that on elections, you can change the situation every 5 years. A referendum tends to be a much longer period. And standing back, we won, you lost. Well, someday in the future, the reverse is going to happen, and you're going to have to suck it up when that happens. If you've got that attitude, what you have to have an attitude is democracy is the right way forward. And if we make a mistake in democracy, we have the ability to change that mistake.
Yes, I don't think anyone's denying that we have the ability to change and we could go back. But and I absolutely understand that it's a very small margin. But at somewhere you have to say who won a referendum and who lost. And if it is
I don't see it as won and lost. I think it is a result.
Yes, okay.
Which may or may not be correct.
Yes,
it's not a win. It's not a win or loss.
No,
it's not a football match.
No, but at some point, if you're asking a question like, do we stay in or do we go out, there has to be a decision at the end of it. Whether if it's 50-50 and someone says, well, it's 50-50, we'll spin a coin, then at some point you have to draw where is the line that you cross over and say, okay, this is the decision we are now going to make.
Yes, I know.
And that's and I appreciate that people say, "But we won and you lost by," and it's a very tiny margin, and it is. But I get that. But at somewhere you just have to say, if it's over 50% of the people in the count up, we have to then accept, because that's the rules of engagement. Otherwise, we don't engage.
Okay.
I mean, wrongly or rightly, it's. That's just, again, that is a democratic thing. I would have thought, but the considerations of that 50% or the half that didn't like the decision should still have an influence in the ongoing process.
Yes, and I will still fight for my country, left or right. So
yes,
Great Britain wins at the end. That's what I want.
Well, exactly, and I think we all want that, don't we?
unfortunately, I think Great Britain's going to break up before the EU breaks up, and that's the problem.
Well, yeah.
And I think people like Farage and Johnson will actually cause the Scots and the Irish to leave us. And
that said,
I think it'll be very sad if that happens. But that's probably what's going to happen because of this.
Just before you go though, but taking ourselves out of the emotional or the personal side of it. Do you not agree with me that this is a fascinating time to be living through?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we should talk about it.
Exactly.
And we should talk about it in depth. And I don't want to bore everybody to death.
No.
All I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and play with my organ for a few hours.
Oh, I say, don't let the wife know. She might want to go.
No. Well, all she wants to do is turn it down.
Yeah. Turn your organ down. It's too noisy. Get some lubricant in there.
Anyway. I'm sorry to get excited about it, but
Ray,
it is important.
Absolutely. I welcome the conversation. I really do.
And I'll leave you all in peace now and let you get on with it.
Yeah, and we look forward to another wonderful piece of music as and when. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
You look after yourself, Ray.
Cheers, bye.
Take care, bye-bye. So there we go. I know some people on this show, some of the audience will get a bit upset and they'll go, oh, they're talking politics and this, that and the other. This show goes from stupid nonsense, lightweight, furry toothpaste to fairly serious stuff. Now, as I said to Ray there, I don't know all the answers. I'm not an expert in very much at all. And I very much appreciate people ringing in who have an opposite opinion to me so that I can actually listen to them. And I hope you found that I was listening and I wasn't shouting him down or saying, we jokingly said who was right and wrong, and we've each got our own opinion. But we were able to debate it as gentlemen or as people. If it was a lady, then obviously as a lady. Not going into the gender business, thank you. And I think that's important, and I enjoy that. Now, I appreciate some people there, and we've had some negative comments about it. People don't, they hate it. Oh, here we go, politics, Brexit, blah, blah, blah. And I know, but we can't put our heads in the sand over important things. If it's boring, no need to flounce about it. Just go and do something else. I get a lot of that on my other YouTube channel. People say, oh, I don't like this, I'm going to flounce off, and they flounce, but what's the point? Anyway, we have another caller. Whoever it is, could you just turn your YouTube channel down a bit? Thank you. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hello, who's that?
It's Ted Moulding.
Hello, Ted, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, and you?
Yeah, no, I'm very well, thank you. Enjoying the debate this evening.
That was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
On referendums,
yes,
I personally don't believe in them.
Okay, why is that?
Because we are a parliamentary democracy. We put people into this building in Westminster to manage the country, or to act as the controlling influence on the executive at the time, the government. So otherwise we finish up like Switzerland when we have referendums for everything. Do we put yellow lines on the road or not? It kind of would get out of hand.
It is quite rare, though, to have a referendum, isn't it, in this country?
It is rare, fortunately. But I don't see in our parliamentary system that they fit in particularly well.
And you may well be right. I suppose I've not been around long enough and been part of that many referendums. I'm trying to think if I've ever been involved in another referendum. But in a question like, would you like to leave the EU or not? Clearly, in every party, there were people who would want to stay in and people who would want to be out. It's not a clear-cut vote for this party. We're the party, unless, of course, you were voting for the Brexit party, which wasn't, a viable party in terms of our normal way we run the government, because we've basically got the Conservatives or the Labour with the majority.
No,
But how would you see that being done then on a question like the EU through parliamentary business?
It would be a free vote within the House of Commons, wouldn't it?
And okay, so do you think with the people that we have, notwithstanding the debacle of recent times, that we could trust our MPs to act on our behalf and do the free vote the way we would want them to do it?
Well, if they're not whipped into line by the whips and told to vote in a particular way, then yes, they would vote. They have the right to vote on their own conscience.
So, I mean, Ray had a good point when he said that you can change your parliament every 5 years, or you can change the government, rather, every 5 years by a vote. But you can't just do the same with going in or out the EU. That's a bigger decision, is it not?
In a sense, yes. But, I mean, difficult way of how to put it, really. I mean, when he said about Thatcher and the common market, or whatever one liked to call it, it was her idea, and the French and some of the others were kind of not so keen on it. But it's moved on from there, hasn't it? It's moved from an economic club towards federalisation, which I think is the stumbling block, particularly for this country.
If we had a different referendum, what would be an acceptable type of decision for the country to make that the government wouldn't make, that would be acceptable to you? Now, it doesn't have to be about the EU or anything like that.
Having a referendum, you need to have a much more clearer majority in favour or against.
Much more
a 5% margin.
Right. Okay. So yes,
that is too
slim.
Too slim. Yeah, too slim. It's too slim a call, really. I mean, you really want a very high turnout.
65%. If you get over 65%, it's
an 80% turnout.
But what would you do, though? What would you do? So there you are with the EU, and you've got it over 65% into one. What do you?
Well, then that would be a reasonable reflection of what the nation thinks.
But if it was 60% and not 65%, what decision would you do? Not leave then?
Not leave, yeah.
It would remain the same. So do you think you could have a referendum
or we leave, whichever way it fell?
Right. So so much then depends on the question that you pose. Should we? Yeah. Like in any.
Like in any referendum.
Yeah.
Or in any referendum of any sort.
If they were to bring in mandatory vaccination, do you think a referendum would be? I know you don't believe in referendums because you said that at the beginning, but do you think that the people should have the vote on something as important as that, or would it just be down to our MPs?
Yeah, if you don't believe in it, and I don't believe in it, you need to chisel your local MP.
And then you've got to hope that he's going to get in. And
well, whoever's sitting for your constituency at the time, you need to get along and say, hey, what way are you going to vote on this?
But can you
express your views that you don't want it?
So in your I'm not really sure how it was. So in your borough, let's say, and your MP is representing your town, borough, whatever it is, and you say, well, actually more people in this town and borough would like mandatory vaccinations, and you say, well, hang on a minute, I don't. the MP is only this one bloke, and he's going to take the majority of his constituency.
Well, that might be so.
What would you
But
do?
I always look at which way they have voted in the past on certain subjects.
But you can't suddenly switch to another constituency and be somebody else, can you?
No, you can't.
So, I mean, you're stuck with who you've got as your MP who's going to do the voting. And if he's not going to vote the way you want, your individual vote is null and void. Whereas in a referendum, at least you've got the chance to say, I disagree or I agree, depending on.
Yeah, I think that in the present circumstances, the idea of mandating vaccination will not work.
No, and I totally agree with you. I think it's unworkable in this country, and I think that it would.
But I feel they're putting that out there to try and get people to vaccinate themselves.
Yes, absolutely. It's another of these nudge techniques that we keep hearing about, in which to convince us by scaring us that if you don't do it, we will force you down. I mean, how would they actually go about doing this? You know, if they were realistically, we're going to mandate it. You first of all, you get fined. If you don't get fined, you'll be sent to prison eventually. And then what will they do? Hold you down and inject you? Because somebody somewhere would have to hold you down, and somebody somewhere would do that. And you'd look into their eyes and say, I'm a human being.
Think a little bit back to the poll tax situation.
Yes.
That fell because people just refused.
And we're do you think we're kind of there now with the debacle that we've had over the last couple of days with Plan B? Do you think most people are going to just go, do you know what? I don't care. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, I've actually been vaccinated, but that's neither here nor there. But, I think we're at the position where we are with like poll tax, and this will bring down this government in the same way as it brought down Mrs. Thatcher's government.
Yes. Well, there we are. That is a good place to leave it. Thank you, Ted.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you very much for calling in.
That's okay.
You look after yourself.
And you.
Call again soon, Ted.
Catch you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Whoops-a-daisy, there we go. That was Ted. Interesting conversation. Fascinating. I could do this a lot longer. I love all of the nature of this show, and I appreciate it's not for everybody. Lots of comments there. Sorry, I've been neglecting you a little bit, and interesting conversations going on. I'm going to end the show, though, because we're a bit over. Will Martin says, why have mandatory vaccinations when the vaccinations don't stop you from catching COVID? Which I think is a very pertinent question that is on a lot of people's lips, especially as we don't really know, I've not heard what the so-called symptoms are for this Omicron and why we are desperately trying to get shot of it. When it might be the benign thing that actually turns round and makes this thing more like simple flu or the common cold, and that we can get on with our lives. The thing that I worry more about is the insistence from the government that we get these shots in our arms when we were never sold that right from the beginning. You know, we accepted 3 weeks to flatten the curve. We accepted no Christmas last year. We went through all the things, and then the vaccines came along, and they were going to be the thing that was going to save us. And they were going to be for the vulnerable and the old-aged who were most likely to suffer. And then it started to creep down to those over 50, and then further down the chain. And you start to think the pharmaceutical companies are making a lot of money over this. I heard an interesting statistic. I don't know if it's true, but it's plausible, I suppose, that they're making the pharmaceutical companies, or one of them or all of them, it doesn't really matter in my mind, £1,000 a second they're making from this, and it looks like they're trying to sell the idea that you will need a booster every year. My goodness, how greedy can you get? But that seems to be the horrible side of capitalism in my mind, and has it gone too far? Can we go back to comedy and cooking, please, says Mr. Mocky. Yes, of course, and 90% of the show is like that. But just to reiterate before I go, this is an unusual time, and I, as the host of this show, which flurries from different things, is fascinated to explore these things as we are in historic times that our children will look back at. And maybe these archives of these conversations that we have, as well as all the other mainstream media stuff out there, may be looked at by people in the past to see how people took it. Your comments that you write here are stored with this video and may also be looked at it. And it will be those people who will be, that's how they dealt with it. Some people could not cope or did not like or wanted escapism from it. That's understandable. And some people who did also want those comedy and cooking stuff also wanted to have a little bit of a debate about it, but not in a mad, manic way. Now, I've tried to be as very measured in today's show because I know sometimes I can get very, very passionate, but I'm being a lot more measured about it and trying not to go over the top. But yes, where we can, where the news stories are not right sky high with things that are just, gobsmacking, then I will get back into the normal comedy and stuff. So rest assured, you haven't lost me into a political show by any means. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a fascinating show as ever. It's always good fun. I appreciate you coming along. Thanks to Bonnie for the £225 advent calendar. Fascinating to see that, and I hope those products do what they say on the tin. Lovely to have Judith and Julia out there making sure that everyone behaves themselves, and please do respect each other in the comments. We're not trying to abuse or anything. We're all very friends here. We're just having a debate. Sometimes we're talking about serious things. Mostly it's comedy, as much as I can make it funny. And it's great. I'll be back again tomorrow, Friday, 8 o'clock. There is no video until Saturday, which I've been working on today, so you'll be pleased to know. So I will see you again tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for watching. Look after yourself. Keep smiling. Things can only get better. They really will. So until then, take care. Thanks again, and bye for now. Bye-bye.